Today's proverb is Proverbs 18:24. You want to read it, buddy?
Yeah, man. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. Read it again. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. First of all, I'm going to state the obvious, as with many proverbs.
Jesus.
Yeah, Jesus sounds a lot like a squirrel. Some proverbs, you just read them and you're like, all right, well, I don't need any other further explanation, any further context to understand what's going on here. And so,
Right.
Unless you're someone who's never had a close friend before, then, it's hard for you to really understand this. And one of the things that I think is super important here, there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother, is you have to be willing to give some freedom for people to push back on you. So much of what we do in relationships today is it's like there's this give and take. And there's this weird consumeristic part of relationships that people have today where, and maybe you've been around somebody like this before, where they just suck you dry, right? All they want to do is take.
Yeah.
They just want to verbally vomit all their woes and all their stuff on you all the time. And it's very hard to be in relationship with somebody that's like that because go into it how draining
Social vampire.
something like that can be. But second, I want to look at this from the angle and ask the question is, why don't you have somebody like that in your life? I cannot tell you the number of times that, I've met with people who said that, they feel like they have no friends at all. In fact, last week when we did this, we talked about the statistic is that 1 in 4 men today feel like they have no close friends at all. Mm-hmm. And the question I always ask is, why? Why is that like that? And I know, there's this aspect to vulnerability that we have to have in order to make good friendships with people. But, at our church, we do these steak nights. We do these guys' nights. And usually we have several hundred guys that'll show up to this. So when it happens, I always like to, at the very beginning, stand back and just kind of watch. Because as I watch and I see what happens, I'll see guys do this. They'll come in. They'll just kind of walk over and they'll stand all by themselves, and then they'll just kind of look around at everybody, and they put their hands in their pocket and, look down. They don't want to make eye contact with anybody, and it's just, I understand for them.
I was that guy.
Many people I'm not down talking on that guy.
Yeah, no, I know you're
Right?
not. I'm just saying that's how relatable what you're saying is.
Yeah.
I was that guy.
And so we come in, and I want to commend you for those guys that do that, because for some of them, that's a hard first step. Maybe they watched a lot of these men's events come and go, and it finally took the 5th one, 10th one, 2nd one for them to go, you know what, I'm just going to put myself out there, and I'm going to go and I'm going to show up, because not every guy out there is an extrovert, and not every guy that's out there's a lot of passive guys, and that's okay too, because we're all built differently within that. But the question becomes, well, why don't I have a friend like that? And it comes down to this aspect of, am I willing to be vulnerable with somebody? Like, am I willing to share with people the parts of my life that I believe in my mind that if I share this with them, that they're going to just heap on shame and guilt and point fingers and tell me how awful I am? And then for anybody who's stepped out in that and never said, hey, I'm going to make that step, I'm going to take that risk. Because that's ultimately what we're talking about when it comes to building a friendship or a brotherhood, is I have to have risk. And if you are willing to take that risk, I promise you there's great reward that comes with it.
That first piece that you mentioned, I'm going to reword it and say that you'll grant access to someone to critique you. You're going to grant someone access to be a critiquer of your life. Because that's what it is. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is I'm going to give you permission to point out the places where I am falling short.
That's right.
And I'm going to listen when you do. And I'm going to act when you tell me. I'm going to take action against the thing that you said I'm not doing. I'm not going to reject it. I'm not going to push back on you for saying it, I'm going to actually sit and dwell in that. I'm going to respect you enough. So there's another component is respect. And how do you gain respect? I spend time with you, and I see the fruit of your labor. I see the fruit of your life. I see you going through these things, and I go, he's got something that I admire. And when I go to him with things, I'm going to be willing to hear what he has to say, whether it's good or whether I like it or not. How's that?
That's the important part.
Whether I like it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm going to listen for truth, and I'm going to be patient with it, and I'm going to then enact changes if changes need to be made. So that's that first piece. The second piece, you're talking about how to go about doing it. And I think it's going to be, you're going to have to take a step in the risky direction.
Yeah.
You have to risk being rejected. And that sucks. Like, I think back to when I was a kid, gosh, you remember, I don't even know if they do these anymore, but they used to do dances, school dances. We do like the skating rink too. And you'd go around,
We used to do the skating
roller
rink.
skates.
Yep.
And they would like do like Boys to Men would play. And the girls would be on the far wall and the boys would be on this far wall. And then you'd skate out and grab a girl and then you'd skate around the rink. You remember this?
I went to Christian school, so
You guys didn't have that?
we had skate nights, but we were not allowed to do that.
Oh, that sucks. I didn't go to that crazy school. We were for sure allowed to do that. And I remember skating out, getting very close to a girl and having her get behind her friend and being like, oh, man, and then just skating back and going back to the wall and standing there.
The walk of shame.
The skate of shame. That happens, you know. I think as you become an adult, it's less, like everybody develops a little bit of couth for the most part.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen that way. Now, that doesn't mean you're always like welcomed in warmly and accepted by every woman you try to go skate with, metaphorically speaking. But, you know, for the most part, if you're going to reach out to like somebody you admire, lead with why you admire them. Mm-hmm. That's flattery.
Yeah.
So you flatter them for a minute and you go, I want to be more like that. How could you suggest And that's at least going to open a window. You know, we talked in our third episode, we're doing an interview with a phenomenal counselor. You guys are going to love this episode. Make sure you check this out. But he spoke to some of these ways you can go about developing friendships. And really, it's about just kind of starting to try to spend time in things you like with other people that like the same thing.
Yeah.
And kind of just overhearing, you know, that's really how it started with our friendship, is overhearing some things about you in a group of other guys that I thought, I relate to that. And then chatting with you about it. How'd that go? What was that like? Tell me a story. And you did. And then I told you some of mine that related. And all of a sudden it was like, hey, man, we got these similarities. We got these common things, and let's find a little place in there. I'm going to read the proverb again. Proverbs 18:24. One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. I wrote, true loyalty is rare. True loyalty is rare.
It is.
Shallow connections vanish when life gets hard. So if you've developed a friend network that's only about the weather and your sports team and about like whatever you do at work, I'd argue maybe your relationship isn't deep enough. Mm-hmm. Like you need to start finding some places of vulnerability in yourself and try to share them. And you don't immediately vomit all your problems of your life on top of somebody you met that has a couple of things in relation to you. But slowly, again, time, you unpack these things a little bit at a time. You know, you maybe don't tell them the darkest thing. Tell them the third darkest thing or the 10th darkest thing if there's a bunch. I had a ton. So I probably started with the 100th darkest thing and worked my way towards number one.
Yeah.
You know, so you start there and you see if you get pushback on those things or you get somebody that just rejects you, that could happen. It's unlikely. Mm-hmm. You know, they're going to probably have something similar or something that it reminds them of, and then they share. And all of a sudden, what do you know? Now you're sharing in vulnerabilities and you're finding peace in that. You're finding camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to go through battles, real life battles, to develop camaraderie with somebody because life is a struggle.
It is. When I hear about this, when I think about unreliable friends, I think about the culture that we have today. Sports is kind of like a language that a lot of people can talk, and how many people out there that play fantasy football. And if you ask them, you know, do you have friends? Oh yeah, I got a lot of friends. I got all these guys that I talk to every single week.
We have cards night. We get beers and
and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those. I'm saying those are entry points. But if all you are having is those entry point or entry level conversations with guys, everything is surface level, then when stuff hits the fan, those probably aren't going to be the guys that you're going to be calling.
It'll be tough to, because they don't have any context to base this tragedy on there, this trauma. They don't have any points where you guys have met in a place of
Well, you may not
traumatic
even,
memory.
maybe you haven't even met them face to face at all because
okay.
everything you're doing is through text or online.
Sure.
Because we see, or maybe you have like you're a video game player, and then every night at 10 o'clock, your team gets on and call across the country, and you guys have your headsets on, and you guys are having conversations about video games. And you're going, well, these are my friends. Maybe. But are those the people that you're going to call when stuff gets hard?
Yeah.
Stuff gets real? Because they probably don't know anything about your life other than at 10 o'clock at night, you get on there and bitch about your marriage and how hard work is, and you're never sharing any real conversations with people. And so I very often I look at this, especially with people who are leaders, of why they fall. There's never put a network of people in their life that they're able to really tell. We've talked about it here before, the 10%.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the 90, but I'm going to hold on to that 10% because it's in that 10% that the devil's lying to me about shame and guilt, that if you ever told anybody that, they would look at you like this.
Yep.
They wouldn't want to be friends with you. They would think you're unreliable.
Yeah.
They think you maybe not to be a Christian. Definitely wouldn't think you're a leader of any kind at all.
Yeah.
And so just hold on to that 10% and keep that all.
Which is a lie straight from the pits of hell. To
Sure
keep you in
is.
isolation.
It absolutely keep you in isolation.
That is that's the path towards alone.
That is exactly right.
Yeah. Viewers, are you struggling with being lonely or alone? Tell us, what do you got going on? Or if you have had moments of that, or you've had long bouts of that, how'd you get out of it? How have you gone about building a strong 10% network, the people that you really share with? How have you built that? Comment that, like, share, subscribe. We are UPD. Thanks for joining us. We'll chat with you real soon.